Welcome to the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation Power of a Championship series. This webinar is part of our Equitable Entrepreneurial Ecosystem e-learning collaborative, which provides essential business resources to entrepreneurs. My name is Stephanie Johnny, and I am the Executive Director for the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization that supports and celebrates ideas and innovators. We promote our country's spirit of private enterprise by fostering access to the marketplace for every entrepreneur and their ideas. Today is an exciting session for us because we are hosting live from the DETV studios in downtown Wilmington. Our featured speakers are Chris Buccini, co-president of BPG, and Ivan Thomas, president and founder of DETV. Chris and Ivan have graciously given their time to us to discuss the importance and value of mentorship within the business community. They will also talk to us about their journeys as entrepreneurs and how you can position yourself to recruit the appropriate mentor to help your business grow. Moderating today's conversation is Peggy Geisler of PMG Consulting. So we understand that many of you are joining us today through social media, and this may be your first time being introduced to the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation, or E3. You can learn more about the foundation and our initiatives at PeteDuPontFreedomFoundation.org. Our session today will feature a live Q&A, and questions are encouraged. We want to hear from you. But in order to do so, you must log into the webinar using the registration link. So for those viewing through social media, please use the link to register and join the webinar to be able to ask your questions and be included in the conversation. Once on the webinar, you can utilize the chat box or the Q&A function to ask your questions. So without further ado, I'd like to kick it off to Peggy to formally introduce you to our guests and get the conversation started.
Chris, Ivan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.
So let's just jump right on in. So entrepreneurship and thinking about mentorship and thinking about championship. Let's talk a little bit about who you are first. I think our audience gets to know you a little bit in this interview process. But Chris, we'll start with you. BPG, it's located in Wilmington. It's a national, very large company in the United States, but I know you have a special place in your heart for Wilmington and for the work that goes on in Wilmington. Can you tell me a little bit about why Wilmington is so important to you?
Thanks, Peggy. Honored to be here, and thanks to the Pete DuPont Foundation for having us. Really, I was just saying earlier, I couldn't think of a better way for Thayer and Ben and the DuPont family to honor their dad, who was such a great man and had such a long-lasting impact on our community. So it's a real honor for me to be representing the Buccini Poland Group with the Pete DuPont Foundation. But probably that's a good intro because Pete DuPont really loved this state and loved this community his whole entire life, regardless of where he went in the world. And the Buccini Poland Group has been here in Wilmington for about 30 years, and we're in well over 25 cities around America, including places like Nashville and New Orleans and Dallas and New York City and DC, and exciting, dynamic places. But our physical home and our spiritual home is right here in the center of downtown Wilmington. Our travels always sort of bring us right back here. And I think one of the reasons is obviously our grandparents came over as immigrants to settle in Wilmington, so there's that connection. But as we travel far and wide, what we find is there's really no city in America that has the promise that we have right here in our backyard. And we believe, and I think it's become our lifelong mission, to make Wilmington the best small city in America. And the cool thing is, despite a global pandemic, we really feel in the last 2 years we have an incredible wind at our back. And a lot of that was just sort of getting everyone else to believe and understand that they have. And that is definitely real. And so I think one of those people that understands it is Ivan. So excited to be here. It's an honor for me to be here with Ivan today.
Great, thanks, Chris. And I think what's really interesting is you talk about your roots. And Ivan, I think your roots are here in Wilmington too. I think you're a lifelong Delawarean.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I sort of want to hear a little bit about that experience, but I also want to hear about this dream. I mean, I'm sitting in part of it right now, right? And I want to know, where did this dream come from? I want to understand, how did this all get started? So a little bit about you, Ivan, a little bit about this dream and how this all got started.
Again, thanks for having me. How can I follow up with Chris? Jeez,
come on,
come on, man.
Come on.
And one thing that I've definitely learned from Chris and Rob is hometown pride. For years you can live something until it hits you. Like it hit me in a conversation one day, Peggy, and Rob said, we're guys from 4th and Due, right? And if you're from Wilmington, you know what 4th and Due is. And so you hear 2 white guys say I'm from 4th and Due, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. So, but in the midst of our relationship and our friendship and mentorship, it has been, hometown pride. They love Wilmington, I love Wilmington, and there's a lot of other people that are here that love Wilmington as well, right? So, CEO, founder of DETV, created DETV in my basement. I had an idea that I could do something different for the city of Wilmington and to show them in a better light. And in my journey where it became, it wasn't, I never want to have a black media company. I wanted to always have a media company that's just so happened to be ran by a black guy, right? That's what it is. My idea came from watching media that separated us, right? It always, and if you remember Wilmington, how it used to be so segregated, and I don't, you remember, Chris, on 8th Street, there was a line that, a lot of black people wouldn't go over 8th Street, and because it was like the banking capital of the world, and everything else down from 8th Street were like stores that, like, low budget stores, right? So seeing that divide and talking to Rob and Chris, and it was a quote that came to me, that was presented to me, and Senator Carper says it all the time by Wayne Gretzky. He says, I'm great because I skate where the puck is going to be, right? So I looked at it and said, what is the problem? Like any businessman, what is the problem and how can I fix it? And the problem was they called this city Murder Town, right? And the problem was separation in this city. So I said, and meeting my mentor in film and learning how the camera works, I fell in love with the science of cinematography and storytelling. And I believe that if I can just show white people and black people having a good time, having a great time, without mentioning race, that maybe one day I could persuade someone to do the same thing that I'm doing. And when I did it with my homegirl, Shoshana, a Jewish girl, you got this big black guy with a crazy haircut, and this little Jewish woman with pink hair. We were running around town, running around Wilmington, eating at places, having a good time, and we just wanted to bring love to the city. And that's how it started.
So, I mean, there's a couple of things I think are really important here for both of you, talking about how this came together. It's a bigger vision for the city. Both of you have a passion for the city. Both of you are thinking, I know you're a big champion, Chris, around entrepreneurship. Ivan just happened to be an entrepreneur, right? And you've got this vision now. Both of you are passionate about the city. How did your relationship evolve? Like, if you were looking at that journey a little bit, right? You're talking about unity now. Let's talk about this unity between the two of you, right?
I bugged him.
You bugged him. Okay.
Both of them.
This is important.
I stalked them.
You stalked. Okay.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
We have to give credit to Norman Oliver. Kingmaker, and got to really give. And it goes back. We became friends probably 9 years ago. 9 years ago. We just were talking about it, and Norman, we were doing a show for Norman, and you were videoing it.
Yeah.
And it was back in our old office, and the cool thing actually, over time, you filmed a few segments, moments, shows with me, and it's funny, we always go back to roots, right, where we're from, and so you've really been there for me for some pretty emotional, soul-searching moments. And so I think we really connected on a deeper level quicker because of that, but we became friends, and I love entrepreneurship, and God knows we need more and more of it here in this community. And I just saw Ivan just making it happen. Like in all entrepreneurs, it's super hard, right? And it's never easy, right? No one's going out and figuring the internet overnight, right? And so you always want to back people who just have what it takes. And so I'll let you talk about why we're here today, but I think our friendship really goes back to Norman, and it's evolved over 9 years now.
Yeah. It has. And it's funny because our relationship was never business. Our relationship was a relationship. It was genuine, right? And we found out over the time that you guys went to Ursuline, right? I went to Ursuline.
That's right.
And they were like, you
Oh,
went to
you're
where?
at Ursuline.
Yeah, I went to Ursuline. And, you know, just some things, like I said, I used to reach out and just ask them questions. You know, I come from Southbridge. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I didn't graduate college. I went to Del State where I learned a lot about business, but it was still a lot that I didn't know. So here I go with this kid with this idea, right? That, what I like to say is I went from high school to the league, you know, and like at the end of this year, we'll hit a crazy revenue of $2 million. So
wonderful.
I had to go to someone like with our relationship, like Rob, Chris, how do I handle this? How do I do this? Because I never knew. And then it was just something that just evolved and evolved. And then it became, hey, so what you got in the pipeline, Ivan? What are you doing? And the way that they used to, they would introduce me to people was, hey, I want you to meet Ivan. He's this young guy that's making the city look good. That's what it was. And I think that when you start talking about mentorship or entrepreneurship, you have to share the same vision. And that's what we've done. We share the same vision from day one. How do we both make this city, all of us, make this city great? How do we make it look good? And I remember we filmed the interview with you and Ted Blunt and Mayor Jim Baker. And the way that my mind works is it takes snapshots of things, and I follow the trend, and I follow what people are listening, and then I implement it in my life. They said, Rob and Chris said, we went to the mayor and city council, and we said, how can we help? What can we do to help? And that has been the center and the moral and the goalpost of DETV. It's not how much money we can make or what can we do. I mean, what can we do for you to take? It's how can we help? And where we believe that we can help in this wonderful city, in this amazing state, is about getting information to people that never had that information, that didn't have the pipeline to the information. And that's why it works. Our friendship works, the business part works, everything works when you have two people that work together that come from two different backgrounds.
So what I really love about your discussion here, it's so genuine. You're really talking about relationships. And then on top of those relationships, you're talking about how to create them. Mm-hmm. And you had a vision and a passion. You never stopped, right? I remember you saying, look, I didn't have any money when I started out with this. I was like worried about that, right? You had shared that. You're like, I didn't know if this was ever going to come to fruition. And there are champions that come into your life, but they didn't just come into your life. How did you create? I'm sure Chris is one of them, and you can talk about how your relationship for getting mentorship evolved from a championship. But are there other mentors that you've taken along the way?
Yes.
And how do entrepreneurs get that, Ivan? I think that's really important because you've got a lot of people watching today who want to understand, how do I find individuals like Chris Buccini or others who can help me along my journey in becoming a business owner and moving forward and accelerating my business?
Don't have an ill motive is one thing. You have to be genuine. People with a good heart know people and are attracted to people with a good heart. I didn't have a motive to go after Chris and Rob because of their status. I was just doing what I was doing. And they saw that. They were like, yo, here's this guy that makes, and just how that I said before, the introduction was, that makes the city look good. That's all it was. We never, ever mentioned the word mentorship.
No.
Never.
No.
So I have several mentors. My gentleman, my man, Tim Fontaine, who's on the other side of this camera right now, is my mentor. When I met him at one of the lowest parts of my life. And he took me under his wing, and he said, won't you come hang out with me? 2 weeks later, I'm in Philadelphia, and he says, yo, get behind this camera. And he showed me what I needed to know. And, you know, years later, 10 years later, he comes down and he's looking at me like, you are doing all this? This is what you're doing? So, and again, I introduce him and he's like, I'm not your mentor. I'm your friend. I'm your brother. And that's how it is. Like, we never mention mentor. These are just people with great hearts.
Right.
You know, and when you do that, it starts to evolve. Things start to happen. You know, moves start to make. The universe just shows up. And then when hard times come, guess what you do? You do the same thing. You just keep on going. You start to figure out and find out you're just flowing off of each other, and that's how things happen.
And I think in Delaware, I mean, in Wilmington in particular, there couldn't be a better place in America to be a young entrepreneur who wants to do something. I mean, you just have to show up, right? And it's got to be authentic, as you said. It's got to be authentic, and it happens organically here. And it's a small enough community. You know, a great example. We always talk about the Carver ties. You know, people that I know we're all good friends with, and they were. I think Mac was 24 when he started Carver Ties. And he just started showing up and networking and talking to people. And I think people in this community immediately can see what's real, and people want to help. And this is a community where everyone, there's not a lot of ego here in this community. There's not a lot of backstabbing. People really want to lift everyone up because there's so much hometown pride.
Yeah, agree.
And you exemplified that.
Well, appreciate you.
Showing up, working hard. We all know as entrepreneurs that you're going to fail constantly. You know, just turned 50 and I'm still failing every week of my life. But that's okay. Like, if you're not failing, it doesn't mean you're trying. If you're not trying, you're never going to make it happen. So you got to. Some days are going to be great. Some days aren't. But you just got to get up every day and try again.
So is failure a part of success?
Absolutely, right? And because you've got to be willing to take chances, right? And no one's going to bat 1,000.
Right.
So if you're not willing to put yourself out there completely, you're never going to get to where you want to be ultimately.
And that's been a huge part of what I go through, right? Is because I fail, I do, and I'm okay with it, because if I fail once, I won't fail twice.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
I think the entrepreneurs watching today would love to hear. They love to hear the story of your success, but they also like to know that you're human.
Oh yeah.
And I think you're talking a lot about that right now. I mean, so I'm interested, Chris. Do you have mentors?
I do. And I think one of the reasons I like to try to give back and help other young people. I love being around young people. I love feeling their energy of what they're going through. If I've had any success in life, why? Blessed with a great mom and dad, great education, strong faith, loving family. But I was really blessed at early ages and throughout my life. I had these mentors, and I always go back to Ned and Carol Carpenter. Ned was, I came up from an Italian immigrant family. Ned was like a Pete DuPont, one of the great statesmen in the history of our state. Member, part of the DuPont family, and was the head of Richards, Layton Finger. And when I was 13 or 14, he and his family really went out of their way to sort of help raise me and show me different parts of the world, help me with my education, things of that nature. So, and I remember they always pushed me to give back financially to this community, but they really pushed me to give back to the community and the people that were part of it. And what I loved about Ned, who's no longer with us, but his wife Carol and their large family, is they didn't care who you were, what color you were, what ethnicity you were. They just wanted Delaware to be a better place. So anyway, of my many mentors, they're just a great example of, I think, what has fueled my brother and me. And of course, my mom and dad always instilled the same thing towards giving back, helping the next generation. And that's how we make this a better community for everyone.
Yeah, they said success leaves breadcrumbs. So when I look at everyone that I touch, is because of the mentors that reached back and said, regardless of what you look like, regardless of what you have, we're going to help you. So now it's like Chris and Rob helped me, Tim helped me, the mayor helped me, Saran helped me, right? Logan Herring helped me, because God knows I'm on the phone with Logan all the time. Like, how do I handle this, or what do I do, right? And that is the thing that now people that I know that are not on this level that I'm on are looking for me to help them.
Right.
So that grapevine of mentorship, it travels.
It's an ecosystem.
Yes.
It really is. It's a connectivity. I mean, you've talked about that, right? I mean, are you mentoring people right now?
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes.
Well, there's going to be a lot more right after the show today. Both of you are going to get inundated. So I think that's great. Here's a really good question. So there's a difference between mentorship and championship. Let's talk about that a little bit. I think this is important. Mentorship, you're kind of helping out, right? Championship takes a little bit of a different onus,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
talk about some champions. Talk about how you're a champion. Give us an example of some of that.
I won't lose.
I heard that.
I won't. There's a part of my brain that clicks on when I'm thinking about doing something. I can't fail.
I
You know,
understand.
there's something that burns in you, that burns in you when you take nothing and make something. There were so many people that said I couldn't do this. I did it.
You didn't listen. You
right.
did not listen.
So it's burnt into me that I don't care. If any of my guys just happen to say, I quit, I can run every camera in here. I can run the machine. I can do what I need to do. You will not outwork me. You will not outplay me. You will not outdo anything than me. I will be the best, and that's just who I am. I will be like when you take Kobe Bryant, for example, right? You are great because you do what people can't and won't do. At 4:30 in the morning, Kobe in high school, Kobe was in the gym. You know, go to class. After that, he's in the gym. Myself, and I learned this from my ex-wife. I learned this from my mentor, Tim Fontaine. Get there early, spend what you have to spend to be great, and just perfect it every day. So every day I walk in DETV like it's the first day of an opportunity, and I can't blow it.
Right.
That's
So,
a champion.
fire in your belly.
Fire my soul.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
That is a great I'm stealing that. I just
Go
want
ahead.
you to know. All right. So, fire in your soul, an undaunting, like commitment and discipline,
Yeah.
right? And you don't see failure.
No.
It's not an option.
No.
But you may face it every once in a while.
I'm
That's
going to
okay.
face issues and situations that I may not know how to handle.
There are no problems. There are only situations
There's
to
only
be fixed.
situations,
I have
yeah.
it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I saw on any given day, I have the greatest thing in the world happen, and I have the worst thing in the world happen, and a few things in between. Unfortunately, you never fully appreciate the great thing because you're dealing with the worst thing that happened that day. But that's all about life. It's dealing with the situation, and the reason why Ivan doesn't fail is because he doesn't give up. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have failures or lost opportunities. It's just, okay, got to learn from that. Number one is, it's okay to fail, but you certainly better not do that again.
Right.
You got to learn from
Right.
your mistakes.
Right.
Because people give you a pass once, but not a second, a third time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the problem with being an entrepreneur is, you know, you got all that, you may have some great success, but you're going to have a lot of challenges along the way. I love what you say about championing because I think, yes, mentoring is giving more of your time to people. And I think, you know, I like to spread that out a lot. But also what I love being a champion, and I think people really respect that. Because when, you know, the Green Box is opening up, the juice shop, or a new store in town's opening up, or a new restaurant, or whatever, I love to go and honor that entrepreneur, and I love to just to sort of cheer them on. And I think that's what this community needs more of. Every community needs more of it, is just all of us coming together to really champion and cheer on those that are going out. You know, even when I have a competitor in my own space, I always go, I check it out, and I congratulate them. I love having competition, right? Because the more, what it does is it pushes all of us to be better.
Yeah.
Again, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'm constantly evolving. I certainly don't have all the answers, and I need younger people, and I need my competitors. I need everyone pushing me to continue to evolve and become better. And I think the minute you think you're great, you know what you're doing, that's it, man. You're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You lost it. You might be fine, but you lost it. Yeah.
Game's over at that
Game's
point.
over.
Yeah.
You're not the top of your game anymore.
Yeah. You know why the Bulls won all the championships? It wasn't because Michael Jordan was the greatest. It was because it was a team, right?
Right.
That's right.
And rebounding. It's what I've learned is, like you said, you're going to miss a shot, but you better not. You better rebound correctly.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing that I've learned is you miss an email, rebound, get back to it. You miss a
Exactly.
follow-up, rebound, get back to it. You know, you miss a budget, woo, rebound, get back to it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, talking about all of this and thinking about your audience who's out there right now, a lot of entrepreneurs who are wondering, how do I find the mentors in my community, the champions in my community? What is your advice to them? I mean, how do they do that?
So I would say there's lots of networking opportunities. So think about your lane, your space, where are you trying to be an entrepreneur? Is it media, is it real estate, is it, dining, whatever it is. But get out there and network and figure out who's in your space and who's willing to sort of be open to help. I think one of the keys, it's funny, I just was on a Zoom with a friend of mine. He's South African of Indian descent who moved to Palo Alto and now runs one of the largest wealth management companies in Silicon Valley. He runs money for Mark Zuckerberg. And he said when he was young and he showed up in America, he wasn't afraid to ask the most outrageous personal questions to people because people are and people would respond and people would answer. And so I think people that are successful love that inquisitiveness. So don't be afraid. Curiosity. There's a great book I read about curiosity. Don't be afraid to be incredibly curious and just to go up and ask people really, oh my God, the Carver Chais guys would constantly ask me questions like that. And so find the mentors in your sector and don't be afraid to ask them for advice and help. And I think you'll find more often than not, you'll get surprisingly candid answers that can be really, really helpful. And I never got a PhD or an MBA or a law degree. I never got a master's degree. But my master's is really my peer group, and constantly asking questions of my peer group, even my competitors.
Yeah. So life is the best teacher.
Yeah,
and you were just talking about questions, and I know that we have some social media questions that have been coming in. I'm sure we have one right now. Stephanie?
Yeah, so a lot of the questions are surrounding mentoring, and a lot of comments are talking about how powerful of a discussion this is and how important this guidance that you guys are offering is. Where should a new entrepreneur start when looking for guidance and mentoring?
So you want me to tell you what back again what that question was?
Yeah,
Where does this entrepreneur, whoever this is out there, any of our audience, go or start if they're not even sure, how to engage or get that champion or that mentor?
One thing that I suggest is, and just like, I'm going to piggyback off of what Chris said, is you have to find that network of people that share the same vision. If you're in the real estate, look around your surrounding areas and find someone that is doing real estate on the level that you want to be on. And it's called standing on the shoulders of giants. Michael Gerber wrote that you find someone that's already doing it and mimic and just follow. I think one of the things is, like, a lot of people, I know in growing up, I always heard I'm a self-made millionaire, right? Like, I don't want to ask anyone for help. I've learned that one, reading is a big part of your success, because soon as if you drop a book, I'm gonna grab it because I want to know you hit it all. So in your surrounding areas, if it's any type of groups, join the networking groups. And just, you have to not be afraid to ask as many questions as you possibly can, because I'm telling you, take it from a brother that wasn't making any money. Like, I asked all the questions, and it wasn't pride, because what I've learned, right, Chris, is people that are on another level, or that's a part of their DNA, is to give back. They want to help.
Absolutely.
But they can't help if they don't know what you need assistance in. I'm not coming to Chris and say, and I never came to Chris or Rob or any of my mentors and said, hey, I need $100,000. I came to them and say, how do I negotiate this deal? How do I scale my business? Or how do I just be good? And they gave me their experience on how to do so. So when you're looking for a new mentor or looking for a mentor, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need a mentor. Can you help me? Because you will be really surprised at the answer that you get.
And the key, though, is too, like, you can't be too broad, right? You can't just say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. I need your help. You've got to say, okay, I want to get in technology, I want to get in media, I want to get in real estate, I want to get in food. There are a lot of food. I keep saying food because there's a lot of food entrepreneurship going on here. So you can't expect to come to someone and have them tell you everything to do. You have to have your own idea, and you've got to come to them about the specifics. I mean, that's the only way. If someone comes to you with just very broad questions like, I don't have the time to sort of do all your research for you, but go out, figure it out, and figure out where the holes are. And so I think very broadly, there's a lot of entrepreneurship community going on at the mill, right? So the mill and the Morris building, go there. They're constantly having lunch and learns. They're constantly having mixers there, things like that. So that's a place where you can plug in entrepreneurship. There are many other places, but if you're in real estate, it's Committee 100, or there are other local real estate groups. If you want to get into restaurants, it's the Restaurant Association of Delaware. So you've got to really follow. On the media, there's very little media in Delaware, so there's probably not a lot of opportunities for mentorship on the media side of things. Yeah. But you quickly figure out who's doing media here in town, and I'm thinking of the guys at the kitchen, people like that. Yeah,
definite purpose is definitely a key.
Yeah,
you have to do your research, your homework at home. Like you said, you don't want to walk up to someone and say, "Hey, I want to do real estate." You want to walk up to them and say, "Hey, this is who I am. This is my question." You have to be real specific on what that question is, because that's the answer you'll get, and then again, form a relationship.
Yeah, I'm just laughing. I was at a dinner last night, and someone started showing me these YouTube videos of this self-made, billionaire on real estate. I mean, you can learn anything on the internet now.
YouTube University.
Go to YouTube, and you can get your base foundation there.
Yeah. So what you're both talking about, I think that is that you have to have an insatiable hunger for knowledge. Don't stop reading, don't stop asking, don't stop engaging people. This is all really important. And let's not forget, Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation has the E3, the Equitable Entrepreneurial Ecosystem. You can go to their website, reach out to them. If you want to start somewhere, we can help guide you for that. We want to connect you. We want to help you know where to go. We have reading lists. There are things we can do to be supportive. And I think, if you see one of these two gentlemen walking down the street, now you know them, just a few thousand of you.
Absolutely.
Stop them on the street and talk to them, right? So thinking about that, thinking about what's next. I mean, what is next? What is next for you, Chris? What is next for you, Ivan? Like, you're still growing entrepreneurs. I think when we think about entrepreneurship, we're not just thinking about today's entrepreneur. There are a lot of people at different phases in their entrepreneurship. What's next for both of you? I'm just curious. I want to know. I want to be in the know.
Well, it's funny. I started off really doing real estate, and then locally, and then we started doing real estate nationally, and then we started really, I'd say the last 5 years, we've evolved more into an operating business where we have, just in the city of Wilmington alone, probably 1,000 employees, and it's something we're really proud of because we're creating a lot of jobs. We're creating a lot of jobs that for people who aren't ever going to work at a law firm or a bank or a place like that. They're working in hotels and restaurants and movie theaters and music venues and blah, blah, blah. So we've become this operating company where we're running businesses that just so happen to be in our real estate. And so what we find is, to create a dynamic city, you need lots of things to do. So we've basically created the largest food and beverage business in the city of Wilmington now. We're opening up duck pin bowling and beer gardens and movie theaters and coffee shops and gyms and and all that. So I think that is going to just continue to evolve and becoming bigger. We're really excited about BPG Sports. We've created what we think is one of the best youth sports complexes in America. It just happens to be right here in the city of Wilmington. We're constantly trying to figure out, how do we get more. I just want more of everything in Wilmington. That is our we just want more. We're not trying to displace anyone. I don't want anyone to leave. Everyone to stay right where they are. We just want to bring more of everyone in. And so I think, a lot of my aspirations for the next, call it, decade is really to see how far Wilmington goes, because I don't think anyone has any appreciation for where the city of Wilmington is going to be in 2030. So that I think is a big sort of, when I think about what fuels my soul, that is what. And one thing we didn't talk about being an entrepreneur is, I never thought about how much money I was going to make.
Right.
It was never about the money.
Right.
And I always believed, if you do what you love and you give it your all and you're authentic and you're genuine, it's going to work out. And who the hell really cares how much you ultimately make, as long as you're making enough, right?
Right.
And so I think that is something I always try to impart on entrepreneurs. Just focus on doing the right thing. People respect that, and business success, don't worry about counting the dollars, business success will follow.
That is
That's awesome.
Chris, that is so true, because you hear, okay, my experience, right? I used to hear guys like you say that all the time.
Yep.
It didn't register. It's like, yeah, it is about the money. And they're like, no, it really isn't, right?
I mean, I like nice things. I like to have a nice car. But it was never about, I want that house or I want that car. You just work and you aspire and you build and you do a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's enough.
Yeah, it really, the money is the byproduct of your success, right? It comes. It does. If you do what you love, and I used to, the saying, you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah.
I really understand that now. It's like you do what you love, and money finds its way to you. It gravitates to you, right? Like when people said I couldn't do this, and it was funny because you're sitting and talking about the sports complex, right? Yeah. And like our relationship now, right? Like we broadcast the Blue Coats games out of their sports complex. Statewide.
It just all works.
It always comes back together. You know what I mean?
So what's next for you, Ivan?
I'm taking over the world.
You are. Listen, I'm just going to get on the Ivan train.
I'm keep it real
That's
simple.
where we are.
I go from a YouTuber, from doing stuff in the basement. The name of the show in the basement was Big Ivan in the Basement. You're in the basement with Big Ivan. And I used to have everyone in the basement. Ashley Biden came to the basement. Matt Meyer came to the basement. Like everyone came to the basement to be on DETV, right, at the time. What we're doing now is, so we created we're concentrating on broadcasting and digital media and distribution, right? So what we're doing now is we have a couple shows that are our flagship shows, which Good Morning Wilmington, The Agenda, our 30-minute news show that we do out of this building right here, and Homeschool. Homeschool is supplemental education that we created during the pandemic for children. So we had the idea of creating, and all these ideas were something I had 8 years ago in the basement, of creating our own version of Sesame Street, right? That's what we're doing now. The future is to create a film stage here in Delaware that people can come and shoot here, just like how they do in Tyler Perry in Atlanta, that they can come here and they can pick a set and they can just shoot here in Wilmington and in Delaware. So broadcasting, creating our own original content and streaming it all over the world and broadcasting all over the world, and actually, and then also having that part just for Delaware.
And
everything for Delaware.
I believe it's coming.
Oh, it's
knowing you, it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be here.
I can't fail.
So I know we have another question. I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie. She's going to let us know, one of our social media viewers.
Yes. So we do have a few questions that are coming in, specifically around the books. Ivan, you mentioned books can be a gateway, and it's interesting because on one of our other championship series, that's been the common theme. So for both of you, Chris and Ivan, what are your top 3 books on your leadership and entrepreneurship list for resources?
Top 3 books.
I'm obsessed with biographies, right? So I mean, read Steve Jobs, read about Jeff Bezos, Amazon. There's so many great biographies of business leaders like that, and the Steve Jobs book is unbelievable. This is a simple read. It's just, I talked a little bit earlier about curiosity. Brian Glazer, Ron Howard's production partner, he writes about being a kid and just being curious about everything. And I think for an entrepreneur, that's a great book. Is Brian Glazer's book about curiosity. But I'd say that, and the Steve Jobs book, pretty, mind-blowing.
Yeah. Mine was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Was definitely one of my books. One of my favorite is The E-Myth. And the other one was like The 5 Love Languages, And those, what those did to me, and why those books are so special to me, is because at the early part of my life, when I decided to do film, well, I want to say film picked me, because when I decided to do this, and I don't think I ever told you the story, I fell into depression, right? My daughter was being born at 4.5 months early, and my dad was dying at the exact same time, right? So I lost my business that I had, and that's when I met Tim Fontaine, and he told me, come on, I got you. So my daughter had 24 hours nursing, and at that time, a friend of mine said, yo, read these books. I was at the worst place of my life, And I read those books, and those books changed me. It helped me to understand, and The Secret. The Secret was a huge book that helped me to start thinking differently. And why I love film so much is because media and film, it cultivated me to what I saw black people on television. We all know that on motion picture, the black person dies first, right? And if the news is telling a story about it, we're either portrayed as animals or criminals. And that was one of the main reasons why I created DETV, is because I saw so many black people doing things together, doing great things. And then in my walks, because I was studying Buddhism at the time, I was trying to find myself. And I went to this Buddhist temple, and this lady walks up to me, a little white lady named Ann walks up to me, and she says, "Do you understand the power of pictures?" And at that time, my dad just died. My daughter Madison is home with 100 feet of oxygen running through the house. And she walks up to me, she said, "Do you understand the power of pictures?" And I'm like, "No." And she says, "Pictures have something we call still energy. It can help a person relive a moment, a time, within a 16th of a second. Take as many pictures as you can, and you'll help millions." So I go home. Okay, crazy lady, whatever. I go home, come back to Wilmington, and just got finished shooting a reality show with Tim. Tim taught me camera angles, taught me how to edit, and how editing is like a sentence, punctuation, what a different angle can do, and how you can tell a story. Another mentor of mine, Saquon Stimson, showed me how to take a picture and tell a story with a picture as a photojournalist, and how to tell that story. So at that time, I started seeing that how media can persuade someone. So I said, if I can use media in the science of cinematography of changing people's thought pattern, I can change my community. I can change how they see us. I'm a big black guy, right? 6'5", 360 pounds, and Allie, you would be scared to death if you didn't know me, right? But I wanted to do something on film that made people see me and others like me differently. But in my walk, what happened in my studying Buddhism, I said, "Why don't I do this for everyone?"
Right.
Not just make it a black thing, but make it a people thing, a humanity thing. And that's where things started changing, is because I knew in Delaware, there's no one with media, right? And if I can use my camera as a tool to change everything, I first had to, one, read more, because when I went to college, I was reading on an 8th grade level. I need to read more, I need to understand more, and I need people that I know that are doing great things so I can feed off of them. And so reading those books changed my life, and they're the reason why I'm here today.
You know, one of the things that you're talking about, both of you, are opportunities and moments that you don't miss.
Can't miss them.
So people come in, you need to know who they are, and you need to hear their message. Moments come in, you need to recognize those moments and evolve with them. And how do you create more of those?
Well, and not to be too corny, but we all love that one quote.
Corny's okay.
Corny's okay.
Corny's okay, come on.
What is, luck is when preparation, opportunity meet, right? And so, I sort of lived my life, I work my ass off.
Right.
Just I work 7 days a week, I work, and everyone's sick of hearing me say this, but that's all I do when I'm not with my family, having a little bit of fun, I'm working, right? And so, but that's the preparation piece of it, right? And 98% of the time, there isn't going to be any opportunity. But when that 2%, that opportunity hits, you've got to be ready. And I think you've sort of lived your life like that as well. And I think you were always ready you were always prepared when that opportunity presented itself. And that's why you're a lucky man.
Oh man, I appreciate it. And you're right. And this is something that I learned from standing on the shoulders of giants. Is watching, how do you react? How do people react? When that opportunity hit, bam, you got to be ready. I started thinking about the military, right? After reading The Secret, and the military has those mantras, right? Have the mantras as they're running. So I started creating mantras while I was driving, or while people thought I had this beat up van, right? And I have 5 pairs of jeans, and every time I hopped out the van, they would rip my jeans, right? And I used to create mantras in this beat up van coming to Wilmington. I'm the greatest. I'm the best. I'll be the best media company in the state of Delaware and by the year 2027. And lo and behold, you know, it's, yeah.
The best tip, I'm going to give the best tip to all the young entrepreneurs out there. I'm 50, I still do this. So a good friend of mine, Kate Milken, she taught me the Superman pose. And so, Jerry, I still do it. She's like, Chris, if you've got a big meeting and you're nervous, I still get nervous. You go into the bathroom and you look in the mirror and you see Superman underneath you, right?
Yeah.
You see Superman, you're Superman, and I still do it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm getting ready because at the end of the day, there are going to be people in the room that are smarter than you, that are better educated or whatever. I know I'm going to outwork them all, but like never be intimidated by anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone, I don't care who you are, who you're meeting with, don't ever be intimidated by anyone because no one's better than you. And that's the way I was raised by my mom and dad, and I live it to this day. And I think you have that same thing.
Oh my God!
Whether it's the the president of the United States, Joe Biden, or it's just a friend in the street, it doesn't matter.
I walk in so many rooms now, right? And again, big black guy in a room, right? I go to the bathroom, right? And I fix myself, and I'm like, can I cuss on this? I'm like, I own this shit. You know what I mean? This is mine.
This is it. It's yours.
Self-confidence.
Yeah.
Well, so what you don't know is, Chris, that Christmas is here, and you're about to get a lot of Superman gifts. I just want you to know that, Ivan, you do own this room. So there's some more questions I think coming in on. We want to make sure we're getting those across from our Facebook viewers as well as our other social media viewers. Stephanie.
Yeah, so there's a few questions coming in. A lot of the questions you guys actually answered during your discussion, so that's been helpful. Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you first started out?
What would you have possibly done differently knowing what you know now?
That's a great. So I made a lot of mistakes. I joined my brother when I was 26 in creating the Buccini polling group. And we really didn't know what we were doing. Oh my God. So like, how many mistakes were made that I'd like to change? A lot. But you know what? I wouldn't give up any of it. I wouldn't give up any of it because, again, in life, you're constantly learning. And so, this is stuff I've learned I never could have learned at Wharton getting my MBA. These are real world lessons. So it's sort of a cop out on my answer of what I would have done different. I mean, listen, I think probably a lot of us wish we worked a little bit harder academically in college. I wish I'd, focused less on my social life in college and a little bit more focused on my academics. That would have been, but otherwise, there's been no, I took a chance early. Again, I worked for other people for 3 or 4 years, and then I went out on my own. So I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life, and I don't regret a moment of that.
Oh.
And you can say that. You can say that hindsight 2020. With hindsight being 2020, you learn to appreciate all your shortcomings, right? Because your shortcomings are what made you. Like, we don't learn because everything's right. We learn because of mistakes and so-called failures, right? That's the way we learn. That's the way that I learn. I cannot, to this day, read something and know it like that. But if I touch it, if I feel it, like I'll come into work and be like, okay, I want to play today, right? Like the way this set is made today is because we played one night. I had this thing in my head, right? And I told Tim and Dennis, I was like, look, I got an idea. And we painted this wall like 3 times, right, to get it right. And we moved the TVs down like 3 times to get it right. And I said, I got this idea that we can have panel discussions here, and if we're 12 feet from the wall, like 6 to 7 feet from the wall, and then cameras are 6 feet from the person, with these certain lenses, it'll do this, it'll do that. I have to do that. So, it's crazy. But back to your question, what would I have done different? Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
Not a damn thing, because I learned so much about business. I learned so much about me. The people that, I don't like to say work for me, but work with me, hopefully they learned as well. And I met some amazing people along this journey, it's not the money. At first I didn't get it, but I get it now. It's not the money.
It'll come.
It's the journey.
Oh, yeah.
It's the
all the
freaking journey. Like, I can tell you, I was in a room, I met Joe Biden, right? He walks up to me, like, we're like the only black film company there, right? And he walks up to me, and the other guys that were there was treating us like we was less than. And he walks into the room and he's like, "Where's Big Ive at?" And we're like, "Oh, okay."
Gotta love Delaware. Gotta love Delaware.
Right, 3 degrees of separation
Yeah.
from everyone. You go to Wawa and see the governor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change anything. I wish I would have worked harder for some things back then, but other
Well,
than that,
you've been talking about that. Both of you talked about sacrifice. When you were younger, you maybe didn't sacrifice as much as you do now.
because you think you know everything. Yeah. I think you got a cape on your back. You know everything.
Absolutely.
You know,
We're
you
back
don't-
to superheroes again, I see.
And I would say, actually, I've been thinking, listening to you about what I would have changed. About a decade ago, when I was 40, I was like, God, is this what I'm doing the rest of my life? Is this it? And so I'm constantly thinking, really being reflective on who I am, what do I want in life, where do I want to be. I'm constantly thinking, what's my 10-year plan, where do I want to be in 10 years. Do not think 24, 36, constantly thinking a decade out. And now I'm thinking, all right, my daughter's 18, when she's 28, like where am I going to be, right? And so when I was 40, I said, well, is this it? And I decided I loved what I was doing. I just wanted to do it on a different level. And so that's when we sort of really went national as a company. And I really put myself out there to fail in even a bigger way. And so if I had to think differently, and I'm so proud of, we've got about 3,500 employees around the country. We're partners with people like, the 76ers and the Penguins and Richard Branson. And these are the people we consider our partners now. And I'm so proud of all that. But I wish I had wasn't afraid to have gone even bigger and thought bigger at a younger age than I did. So I guess the point is, whatever level you're at, don't be afraid just to go for it, because I promise you, the person who's finding their dreams in the same career that you want, they're no better than you are. You just got to really believe in yourself. You got to go for it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Clearly, my mom made me feel really good growing up. She always made me feel like I could do anything.
Yeah. No. I revert back to Joe Thomas, my father. Right. My father had an 8th grade education, and he used to always say to me, "You better enjoy this time because you'll never get it back."
Yeah.
And being young, you always think there's tomorrow. You always think you got more time. And I'm 46 now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I have a friend of mine who has a watch, and his watch goes backwards. Right, I don't know where he got this watch from, but his watch, and I asked him, why does your watch go backwards? He said, because it lets me know how much time I got left.
Interesting.
And he's like, I could be on the phone, and I'm like, is this wasting my time? Is this conversation wasting? Because you spend so much trying to get the business right that you sacrifice everything before that, right? And then you wake up and you're 45 and you're 50, and you be like, okay, different level. What do I need to do now? Like what I did sacrifice, because I love to tell people about my mess ups. I sacrificed my health. Like, I was diagnosed in August with type 2 diabetes, right? And then I was like, and then it hit me like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I worked my butt off to get here, and you're going to tell me now I have type 2 diabetes? I'd be damned if you cut a toe off. Yeah. I'm really reaching a higher level. So I had to change everything immediately, and then when that thing puts you in perspective, you start to realize, I need to enjoy this journey because anything can happen. So to all the entrepreneurs out there that, make sure you take care of the one thing that will help you out to be successful, and that is your mental and your physical health.
So what I'm hearing from both of you is this dedication to self, the sacrifice you have to do now, but at the same time you can't miss in your life what's important.
Yeah. And by the way, the dedication to self, unfortunately, is more of an ideal than actuality, but
Yeah.
it is something I'm incredibly focused on, is, mental and physical well-being.
Really?
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? If you're an entrepreneur,
It's an ideal.
You're still trying to figure it
No,
out.
we're still trying to figure it
I
out.
was looking for the answer personally. I don't know.
It's a journey.
It is a journey.
It's a journey.
Well, you know what? Everything you've talked about today is evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evolution about where you were in a certain time, where you are now, and where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked where you're going, and you said the sky's the limit. So how do entrepreneurs decide where they are right now and where they need to be next? They can still have the sky the limit, but how do they know what the next step is? How do you figure it out?
I believe the next step reveals itself to you. If you're doing what God, the universe, or whatever you want to call it, put in you to do, I never thought I'd be running a TV station. I was a guy in the basement that just tried to make the city look good. You know, it shows itself to you. Hey, this is the need. These are the people you can help, and you just follow it. I think Bruce Lee said, be like water. Water becomes, you put water in a vase, it becomes the vase. You put it in a pot, it becomes the pot. What I've learned, and I can only give you my experience, what I've learned is to just relax, breathe, and follow.
Life is so iterative, right? And again, when you think about this notion of 10-year plans, it's so iterative. You just want to constantly be building on yourself, building up, and you just don't want to take too many steps back.
Right.
And before you know it, 5 years, 10 years will pass, and you look back and you'll be like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I'm really proud of where I am today. So I think, again, it reveals yourself. You've got to sort of have these plans as to where you want to go, and the last thing you can ever do is worry about what the next person's doing. The minute you start worrying about your competition, you start worrying about your friends, you start worrying about your peers, you're done. Just stay focused, eye on the prize. Where do you want to go? Don't worry about how much money that person has or how much success. That'll be a cancer. Just just worry about getting up every day and following that plan. And again, 5-10 years later, you look back, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
That is so true, man.
Right?
It is.
That's so true.
So gentlemen, what I'm going to say is we're almost at time, and it doesn't feel like an hour could have even went by, right? I really have enjoyed this, listening to both of you in such a genuine way, and being so open and honest with our audience here today. So wrapping it up, what are we going to leave everybody with? You know, what are the words of wisdom? If you put your cape on, Chris and Ivan, you know, what are the thoughts that our entrepreneurs need to hear as they continue down this journey in their life?
Be yourself. Be true to yourself. Make sure that you understand what any field that you get into, that you understand what is involved in that field. I believe that, Peggy, that you need to know everything. You don't need to be the jack of all trades. You need to just understand that you need whatever that organization needs. You need to know how it operates and what effect that it makes on your company, on your organization. I think that definitely take care of yourself, enjoy the journey, and if you do not know, ask as many questions as you can, and make sure you do your homework. Because the one thing that people that on a different level that we hate is people wasting our time. So be ready, because one of the questions that you will get asked is, how can I help? And you need to have an answer.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, time. We keep talking about time. Time's the most important resource we have. Basically judge everything in my life. This is taking time away from my wife and 3 children and my family. So is this worth it, right? So I love to help other people. But if you just want to get together and chat, less interested, how do we like make a difference? How do we get focused on ways that I can really help? I think if I was going to leave a few messages, number one is half of life is just showing up. All right, put yourself out there, just show up. Be ready to work really, really hard. Right. So again, I always say you can do anything you want in life, other than maybe president of the United States, although Joe Biden will tell you otherwise. But you can pretty much achieve anything. It's just what are you willing to give up to get there? And so you've got to be really honest with yourself and your own values. What are you willing to give up to get there? How much time are you really willing to give? So I think, and it's okay. It's okay if you're not, the CEO or whatever. Think about what your values are and where you want to go, and then just be your authentic self along the way, and that always wins the day.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really want to extend our appreciation from the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation, and thank you for allowing me to be your moderator. And we're going to end with our illustrious leader from the Pete DuPont Freedom Foundation. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Peggy. And Chris, Ivan, thank you so much again for making time to join us today for this conversation, and of course for your transparency and your honesty. Your guidance is very much appreciated and valued. And Peggy, again, thank you for moderating. For those who have not signed up for the Foundation's e-newsletter, please do so at PeteDuPontFreedomFoundation.org in order to stay up to date on announcements for our next E3 webinar and our E3 application cycles happening in 2022. This January, we will talk about tax preparation with Laura Lloyd, CPA and Supervisor at AKA. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season.